The rain fell softly on the cemetery that day, as if the heavens themselves were mourning alongside me. My heart was heavy with grief, and the air felt suffocating, thick with the sorrow of those gathered around the polished casket. My son, my little boy, my world, was gone, or at least that's what I thought. Friends, family, and neighbors stood in solemn silence, offering their condolences, patting my shoulder, whispering comforting words. I nodded, forcing a fragile smile, but my mind was elsewhere, trapped in the memory of his last laughter, the warmth of his hugs, the sound of his voice. The grief was almost physical, pressing down on me from every direction. As the minister's words droned on, I felt numb, my mind shut down from the pain. Then, amid the quiet sobs and whispered prayers, my phone vibrated sharply in my pocket. I glanced down automatically, expecting maybe another condolence message, another fleeting note of sympathy. But what I saw made my blood run cold. An unknown number had sent me a message. The words blinked on the screen like a jagged pulse. I'm alive. Don't trust my wife. I dropped the phone slightly, fumbling to read it again. My heart pounded. My son, alive? How could this be? And my wife, don't trust her. The words made no sense. My grief, the rain, the solemn faces around me, all of it collided with a sudden icy suspicion that left me breathless. I looked up at the mourners, trying to process what I had just read. No one noticed the change in me, the sudden hard edge in my gaze. My hands shook slightly as I gripped the phone tighter, hoping it was a mistake, a prank, or a cruel trick of someone trying to mock my pain. But something in the message felt urgent, real. The unknown number had written it with a conviction I couldn't ignore. My son, alive? And why would anyone warn me about my wife? A sense of unease crept over me, wrapping around my chest like a vice. The funeral continued around me, people weeping, ministers speaking, flowers arranged, and yet I felt suspended in a strange limbo, half in grief, half in disbelief, half in fear of what this text could mean. The day I thought was the end had suddenly become a puzzle. And I knew, deep down, that I couldn't ignore this message. Not if I ever wanted the truth about my son. After the funeral ended, I couldn't shake the message from my mind. Every condolence, every pat on the back, every whisper of comfort felt hollow. My son, alive? And why the warning about my wife? The questions churned inside me like a storm, refusing to let me rest. Once we returned home, I sat in the quiet of my study, phone in hand, staring at the unknown number. Who could have sent it? And why now, at the exact moment I was burying my son? I knew I couldn't ignore it. Grief could wait. I needed answers. I dialed the number cautiously, my hand trembling slightly. A click, then a calm, unfamiliar voice answered. You have to trust me, it said low and urgent. Your son is alive. But if you go to the police first, it could be too late. My mind went blank. Alive? This couldn't be real. And yet the certainty in the voice, the desperation, it felt genuine. My instincts, honed over years of life's challenges, told me this was no prank. Someone was warning me, and I had to listen. The caller refused to give their name, but they promised proof. I'll send something that only you would recognize, the voice said. Within minutes, a photo arrived. My stomach sank as I saw him. My son alive, sitting in what appeared to be a small safe house. The boy smiled faintly, the same mischievous grin he used to flash when hiding from me during our games. I stared at the screen, my heart hammering. It was him. alive. My grief, my mourning, suddenly twisted into fear, confusion, and rage. Who had orchestrated his disappearance? And why had my wife lied to me? I had to act carefully. I couldn't tell anyone, not the police, not family. The text had warned me, don't trust my wife. But who could I trust? My thoughts spun as I tried to form a plan. I decided to investigate quietly, tracing the photo's metadata, looking for clues, and observing my wife's actions without letting her know. Every glance she gave me, every small gesture suddenly seemed suspicious. And then I realized the person who had sent the text might be the only lifeline I had to finding my son. The day that had started as a funeral now became the first step of a dangerous, tense investigation that could change everything. Days passed, but I couldn't think about anything else. Every moment was consumed by that single, haunting message. Who had sent it? Why had my wife lied? And most importantly, how had my son survived? Late one night, I received another text from the unknown number. It read, "Meet me at the old warehouse on Elm Street at midnight. Come alone. Bring nothing." My heart pounded. Every instinct screamed danger, but the photograph of my son burned in my mind. I couldn't wait. I had to know the truth. I arrived at the warehouse, shivering under the dim street lights, and cautiously stepped inside. Shadows stretched across the cold concrete floor. My eyes scanned the room until I saw him, a man stepping out of the darkness. His face was familiar, but aged slightly, and his eyes held urgency and fear. "You're alive?" I asked cautiously, though my voice trembled with a mix of hope and dread. "Shh," he whispered, pulling me further into the shadows. "Listen carefully. Your son is alive, but your wife, she can't be trusted. She orchestrated everything. The accident you were told about, she lied. She wanted him gone." My mind reeled. The woman I had trusted with my life, the mother of my child, had orchestrated his supposed death? And why? "She's dangerous," he continued, producing a folder filled with documents and photos. "These prove she intended to take everything. Your son was hidden to protect him and to keep you in the dark. But I can't contact authorities directly. She has connections. That's why I reached out to you." I swallowed hard, my hands shaking as I glanced at the proof. Every document painted a horrifying picture. Transactions, fake reports, and manipulated evidence pointing toward my wife's involvement. My chest tightened. Anger, disbelief, and grief collided inside me. "You have to trust me," he said again, eyes locked on mine. "You're the only one who can bring him home safely. But you must act carefully. Don't alert anyone else. She's watching." For the first time since the funeral, I felt a flicker of purpose. The pain of losing my son transformed into determination. I would bring him back. I would uncover the full truth. And most importantly, I would not let anyone manipulate me or my son ever again. The night had begun with a mysterious text, but it ended with a mission. One that would test my courage, my intelligence, and my will to save the child I thought I had lost forever. The following days were a blur of planning and paranoia. Every movement my wife made, every word she spoke, now felt suspicious. I had to be careful, not just for my son's safety, but for my own. One wrong move, and everything could collapse. Late one evening, I received another cryptic message. "Tonight, your son is here, but she's watching. Stay calm, stay smart." The location was a small, secluded cabin in the outskirts of town. I knew I had no time to waste. I approached the cabin cautiously, keeping to the shadows. My heart pounded in my chest, and 1,000 questions raced through my mind. How had she orchestrated this? Why did she want him gone? And most importantly, why now? Inside the cabin, the room was dimly lit, just enough to reveal my son huddled in the corner, wide-eyed and pale but alive. Relief surged through me, and I rushed forward, but then I froze. My wife stepped out of the darkness, calm and composed, her eyes cold. "I see you found him," she said smoothly, her voice dripping with calculated calm. "But it's too late. You don't understand what's at stake." I swallowed my fear. "What have you done? Why did you lie?" She smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You never needed to know. You'd never act fast enough. But now, here you are, and everything is on the table." I glanced at my son, who clung to the shadows, and felt a surge of protective anger. "I don't care about your schemes. He's my son. I will not let you harm him or hide him from me ever again." A tense silence filled the room. Then slowly, she took a step back, realizing my resolve was unbreakable. "You think you can undo what I've started?" she whispered. "Yes," I said firmly, "because he's my son, and nothing you do will change that." The standoff was brief, intense, but the moment was clear. I was no longer a grieving parent lost in despair. I was a father on a mission, a man who had been warned, prepared, and determined. She might have hidden the truth, manipulated the system, and tried to control the narrative. But she had underestimated the bond between a parent and a child, and for the first time since the funeral, I felt a flicker of hope and a certainty that I would bring my son home safely, no matter the cost. The tension in the cabin was unbearable. My wife's gaze held a mixture of fear and defiance, while my son hid partially behind me, trembling but alive. I took a deep breath and knew there was only one way forward: confront the truth, piece by piece. I held up the folder of evidence the mysterious texter had sent me. "I know everything," I said calmly but firmly. "The fake accident reports, the financial manipulations, the lies you've been feeding everyone. I know you plan to disappear with him, or worse, but I will not let you succeed." Her composure faltered slightly, just enough for me to see the cracks in her carefully constructed facade. "You don't understand," she said softly, almost pleading. "Everything I did was for security, for protection." "You wouldn't have understood," I shook my head. "No, you lied. You manipulated. You almost cost me my son. That's not protection. That's betrayal." My son stepped forward, clutching my hand. "Dad, I was scared," he whispered, eyes wide. Relief and fury collided inside me. I knelt, wrapping my arms around him tightly. "I'm here now," I said, my voice breaking with emotion. "You're safe and we're leaving. Together?" For a moment, my wife remained frozen. Then finally, she sank into a chair, defeated. Her schemes unraveled in the face of the truth, and the power she thought she held over us dissolved. I called the authorities, not to punish rashly, but to ensure protection and accountability. The mysterious texter, whose intervention had saved my son, remained anonymous but left behind enough evidence to expose the full extent of my wife's actions. Days later, the investigation concluded. My son was safe, and the lies that had threatened our family were uncovered. Friends and family rallied around us, offering support and relief. I finally allowed myself to breathe, to grieve properly, and rejoice in the fact that my child was alive. The experience left scars, yes, but it also left a profound lesson. Vigilance, courage, and listening to the warnings, even from unknown sources, can save lives. What had begun as a funeral, shrouded in grief, transformed into a story of revelation, survival, and the unbreakable bond between a parent and a child. And as I held my son close, I realized something powerful. Even in the darkest moments, the truth has a way of finding its way to the light. Thank you so much for watching this story till the end. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe even learned something from it. If you'd like to hear more stories like this, full of life lessons, drama, and emotions, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss an update. Your support means the world, and it helps me keep bringing you more inspiring and unforgettable stories. Stay tuned, because more amazing stories are on the way.